Oofda! Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Monday mini medicine card readings. Ooh, I just got back. I haven't totally unpacked yet. I'm a little discombobulated. Just getting set up here. I was gone for the weekend at a friend's cabin for a much needed recovery. It's been an intense and kind of rough couple of weeks. So, thank you, Jennifer, if you're watching. So I just got home. I just scarfed down a burger. So I'm not quite set up, so just give me a moment here. How are y'all doing? Made it to another week. All right, so here we go. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me for another Monday mini medicine card reading. Choo. Okay.
You need matches?
Yes, please. Oh, I got some. Never mind. I'm really disorganized tonight. I said I just got back from a weekend in the woods, so I'm not quite civilized yet. If I ever am. Some of you know I'm like huge Tarzan fan. Tarzan was like my biggest hero growing up. And there was a phrase that Edgar Rice Burroughs always talked about, the thin veneer of civilization. And that's me. Okay, what else am I missing? I guess that's it. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. We are here on another Monday night. And if you're new, my name is Patrick. I will be your friendly neighborhood shaman. And we are going to do some card readings. So the cards I use, if you haven't been here before, are the medicine cards. Each card with the lovely picture of a lovely animal. And whichever animals show up, each animal has its own medicine, which is why they're called the medicine cards. Its own medicine, its own energy, its own gifts, tendencies. And so whichever animal shows up, that's what your guidance is for this week, which is, excuse me, why I do this on a Monday, so that you have guidance for the week. You have someone to call on, an animal friend. You have an animal friend to walk with you through the week with their strength and their courage. I just got back from Crescent Moon Gifts in Tacoma, where I was theoretically doing readings all day. No one else got the memo, but oh well. And so I'm going to just smudge my cards when I'm talking with you. It's been a weird weekend. Like, I just dropped my sage into my candle. One of the first things I did over the weekend when I got to the little cabin in the woods where I was staying was locked myself out. And I was just glad that I thought about putting on pants before I left the building. So, but it all worked out. It was a wonderful weekend. I got a lot of things cleared. Feeling much better. I could have spent another week out there or more. So, but anyway, how are you guys all doing? If you're there, why don't you say hi? give me some likes or some love, some hearts. Let me know you're there. What we do, if you're new, I pull 3 cards, 3 of these medicine cards. And your job is to choose a number between 1 and 3. And then whichever card corresponds to your number, that is the animal who is walking with you this week. That is the guidance for you this coming week. And if we have time at the end, we're going to do a guided shamanic journey. So you can personally meet whichever animal has chosen to volunteer their week for you to help with whatever is going on, and talk to them yourself, get your own message from them. Oh, and I apologize if I'm a little bit ungrounded. I feel like I've hit the ground running. I'm kind of needing to ground here. Oofda. All right. So choose a number between 1 and 3, or all 3 numbers, or 2 numbers. We'll see how it goes. All right. Ha-ha. 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 All right, we've got 3 cards. Choose your numbers. And here we go. So, getting right into it. If number 1 was your number, salmon is your card. Salmon is really misunderstood by our society. It's one of those things that kind of our culture, you know, the Western culture based on puritanical or ideals, you know, use the salmon to prove that we need to keep fighting life. We need to keep fighting against the grain. We have to fight, fight, fight. Because we think that salmon is fighting the current of the river the whole way upriver to where their spawning place is. When actually, salmon can feel out the undercurrents and the eddies and the whirlpools underneath the river, the undercurrents. And so they're not, I mean, they do so, I mean, if you've seen the salmon in the rivers, it's time to spawn. Some of them are really raggedy and beat up. So I'm not saying that it's totally, like it's easy, like easy breezy thing for them, but it's not as hard as people think, because they see paths that others can't. You know, other people watching them are like, what the hell is this crazy fish doing? He's swimming backwards. He's swimming back up the river. Nobody does that. But if this is your card, I want you to trust your vision. Trust your heart to guide you. To others' perception, it may look to them like you're going backwards. It may look to them like you're going, you know, fighting the current, fighting the grain. Why can't you just be like everyone else? So it's kind of like the Jonathan Livingston Seagull. If you've ever read that book by Richard Bach, you know, that Jonathan Livingston Seagull was a seagull who felt he had much more. This is total paraphrase because it's been years and years since I've read it. But he was not content to just fight for scraps of food and fish He was like, he knew there was a higher calling. He knew that that he could do much more than just fight the other seagulls for food. And so while he was, while the others were scrounging and fighting and trying to get every little scrap of food off the beach, he was off in the sky, spinning, turning loop-de-loops, barrel rolls, and doing all he could to fulfill his potential. That's kind of the essence of salmon. Others are content to flow downstream, right? But salmon, it's not that they're fighting, oh, I gotta fight to get what I want. It's that there are when you follow your path, there are currents that carry you there. When you see your path and you trust your path, no matter what anyone else says or thinks, the path, the water, the currents will carry you where you're trying to go. Because there is much more to you than what the world thinks, what the world expects, right? We have so much human potential. And it's crazy that those people who are able to attain some of the wild potential of humanness are either exiled, shunned as freaks, or raised up on a pedestal as heroes, when that whole spectrum gives us hope, gives us possibilities of what we all can do. So never let anyone else talk you out of your path. I recently, this past autumn, I had a nice encounter with a salmon. I was down by the river doing pipe ceremony like I do a lot, and there was a salmon kind of just hanging out on the side of the river where the water was still, kind of catching his breath. And there's this big old flat rock that just kind of, it just kind of sits right on the edge of the river, right on the edge of the water. And so I went over and sat on that rock to see the salmon closer, and the salmon came over like a little puppy dog and hung out right under this rock where I was sitting. And so I was talking to him, and I was kind of falling back into that whole idea, oh, these poor fish, it must be really hard for them because they have to fight the current. They're destined to fight and die. But this salmon was, one of the things he told me was, no. It's like the gift he brought was enthusiasm. They have so much enthusiasm and so much energy that this is what they can't not do. That, excuse me. It's like they're like powerhouses. They have to swim. They have to. It's like in a way, the current of the river balances their energy going upriver. And so it's not so much these poor fish and they get so beat up. It's like they're like, woohoo! I get to go home and I have all, it's like this enthusiasm and gumption. I love that word, gumption. And so that's your card. Ask if you're having, tap into that natural gumption, that energy, that passion within you to do what you came here to do, to be what you came here to be. You know, there's whatever your purpose is, whatever your passions are compasses to the direction you're meant to go in. And when you follow those passions, you can swim upriver, you can jump over waterfalls. Thank you, love. In fact, I believe it's somewhere like Scandinavian countries, I think Norway or somewhere, the root word for salmon is the same root word for somersault. Because rather than seeing these fish as these trudging and trying to go upriver and fighting the whole way, they watch these fish filled with so much joy that they are jumping over waterfalls, and they're watching their children tumble on the lawn, somersaulting and jumping and spinning, and they equate the energy of the salmon with that youthful vim and vigor of children. And so know that, and that's part of that, you know, when you can see your path ahead of you, you follow that path, you're not doing it all alone. Spirit will carry you to get there. Your passions, that is spirit moving through you to carry you. In fact, when the salmon are jumping up the waterfalls, it's not like they're getting a running start and leaping with all their might. You know, at the base of every waterfall are whirlpools. So they're hitting those whirlpools and using that to slingshot up over the waterfalls. They're not expending just their own energy, I'll put it that way. The whirlpools are going, I keep picturing the Enterprise slingshotting around the sun so they can time travel or whatever. But, so salmon is about joy. Salmon is about enthusiasm. Being filled with so much gumption that you can swim upriver without any trouble. It's within your wheelhouse to do so. And along with that, kind of like, so what's the point of it? Salmon brings the gift of going home. Salmon returns to his origins. So it's about surrendering into that original purity, that original essence of who you are as a divine being. And so when salmon shows up, it's not if you get there, it's when you get there. And so, like, salmon is like, brings that destiny. Like, you are destined to get where you're going. You are destined to get home. And there is nothing that can keep you from achieving that. And when you know you're going to get there, then every bend of the river, rather than being something to dread, oh my God, what's around the next curve? Every bend of the river is an adventure, because you know no matter what is there, you're going to get through it. And it becomes, rather than an obstacle to knock you down a couple of notches, it becomes the springboard, like the whirlpool at the base of the waterfalls, to shoot you up another level. So know that, again, I say this over and over, but like Dr. Wayne Dyer says, you're a spiritual being having a human experience. And this is returning to that spiritual essence. Returning to the spawning, returning to the origin. Also, I wasn't going to go here, but my guides are nudging me, so someone out there needs to hear this part, that salmon is, according to the Celts, salmon is the oldest and the wisest of all animals. So not only returning to your ancestry, learning to your origins here, this is about becoming more in touch with your ancestry, that longevity of your bloodline, your spirit line, and invoking that divine wisdom. The story goes that, before anything else, there was this pool, and in it, salmon swam around, and there were these hazelnut trees hanging over the water, and they would drop the hazelnuts into the water, and salmon would eat them. And like across Celtic mythology, the hazelnut is, how do I put it into words? The hazelnut basically holds all wisdom. It's this magical nut that holds all wisdom. And so by eating that hazelnut, salmon awakens to all this wisdom. And if you think about it, like they talk about fish being brain food, right? I saw this special many years ago, and it was about they were talking about the original shift that humans made, like brain size or brain capacity, like brain works, like neural pathways, like taking that evolutionary leap into a higher intelligence. And scientists, at least back then, I don't know if this holds up, but it's an interesting story anyway, that we all started in Africa, and it was when we moved to the ocean, when humans migrated to the oceans and started eating the fish, that kick-started our brains up a notch, and we started being able to have higher thoughts, higher ideals, and all of that. So that's all tied into salmon. It's like trust your path, trust your bloodline, trust your spirit line. Your ancestors are helping you, and you have access. All of that wisdom from the ancestors, all the way back to the beginning of time, is literally in your blood. And so salmon comes along to help swim. I've done, in my classes, I do a number of journeys with my students, shamanic journeys, where we get in a boat and we row our boat back up the river of blood to get to meet our ancestors. So your ancestors are calling. If this is your card right now, connect with your ancestors. Even if you don't know how to do a shamanic journey, and if you wanted to learn, I'm teaching a class this coming Saturday, which I'll tell you about at the end of this video. Picture yourself getting, like, you can meditate and get, surround yourself with your guides, your ancestors, your spirits, your angels, whoever you call on, to hold space for you. And then picture yourself getting into a canoe on the river of blood. This is the river of your blood ancestry. And then ask your main guide, your main angel, even if you don't know who they are, to come and sit in the bow of the boat and to direct the boat to your ancestors. And you can ride this canoe or this rowboat, whatever shape this boat takes, back and connect to your ancestors. See what messages they have for you. And then remember to get back on the boat and come back to where you left off, which is important. But that just seems so fitting with salmon, you know, swimming upriver, swimming back to your origins, swimming back to the ancestors. So trust the wisdom that comes through you. Know that it is in you, and that it's not by trying to learn things or trying to tighten down an effort through things, but by surrendering into that essence that we are, into who we are as divine beings, that allows that wisdom to bubble up like that pool with the hazelnuts floating in it, right? So that's salmon. I feel like that took some really weird turns. But anyway, so number 2. If 2 is your number, you got beaver. Beaver came up last week, I think. But beaver is basically the visionary. Beaver, where other animals look at trees and just see trees, beaver looks at trees and sees dams and lodges and ponds. And one thing that I realized just recently, that I spend so much time when I'm talking about beaver, talking about the vision and seeing beyond what's present, like what can be done in the future, that I always forget to mention. Kind of like what I was talking about, the gumption of salmon. Beaver has the gumption to fulfill his visions, to fulfill his dreams. He doesn't just daydream and, oh, wouldn't it be cool if. He gets his vision and then he acts upon it. He listens to his heart, because his heart is what sees what could possibly be. His heart tells him to act, to cut down trees. Oh, that's a good tree there, and to trim off the branches so they can make a good dam, and then to build the lodge. So when I say visionary, you know, it sounds like this, how do I put it? When we think of visionaries, we think about someone who has the entire planet in their mind and a better world, and that's all good and true. But with Beaver, he's just fulfilling his purpose. His purpose is to build dams, which create ponds, which creates water resources and environments, ecosystems for a whole nother class of animals and plants and everything. But he's just following his heart. So by doing what's in his heart, he automatically benefits. By acting on his vision, he already benefits the entire woodland ecology and everything. So trust your dreams, trust your passions. You know, when I learned soul retrieval from Sandra Ingerman, one of the things she always talks about in terms of the soul retrieval, in terms of the integration, like soul retrieval is where we return a piece of ourselves that had kind of split off because of trauma. We call it dissociation in Western terms. But when we return those parts back to us so that we are more whole, one of the main ingredients to keeping those parts and rooting those parts back into us is passion. And she has a whole list of things to ask yourself after the soul retrieval, and one of the main ones is, what can I do tomorrow to increase the passion in my life? passion is the compass. Passion is the rocket fuel to fulfill your dreams. If you're, I just had a client come in a couple of weeks ago who, her life seemed to be falling apart. She was a mother and a wife and, homemaker, all these different things, all these different roles, which used to be her purpose. She had a lot of passion for those things. But in the past year or two, I don't remember what the time frame was, so she just started losing energy to put into those kind of things. And she's been drawn toward other, more spiritual things. And that's why she came to me, was to ask questions about shamanism, because that was the direction she felt pulled. And anything she could read, any group she could go to, any, videos she could watch, she was right there. She had the passion, the energy was there, leading her in that way. But she felt guilty because her energy was no longer going toward the mundane things in her life. And it's such a crime that what we do to ourselves and to each other in this world, we have these very narrow expectations of who someone is and what they're allowed to do. And there is, like I was talking about Jonathan Livingston Seagull, there's so much beyond just fighting for food that a seagull is able to do, that he had to explore all of that. His energy, his passions took him into the sky to do barrel rolls and stunt flying. And so when we get this call to do something more, we start to feel guilty. And we resist that passion, and we plunk in and try to just fight our way through these things that we're supposed to do. When if we just surrendered to those undercurrents, even if it looks like we're going upriver, we're going backwards compared to everyone else, that is the path. That is, if the passion is there, if the desire is there, that is the direction to go in. And it doesn't have to be an either or. In this life, most things are both and. You can both, the more that you answer those passions, perhaps the more energy we'll have to do the mundane things, because it spills over. But we tend to say it's either this, I either have to follow my passions or I have to do my duties and responsibilities. And I can't tell you how many times I've done journeys in the past 5 or 6 years, where my guides come to me, and like just recently, one of my guides, I was having challenges, especially like the solar plexus area. And one of my guides came up, was actually basically reaching his hand into my solar plexus and pulling out all this gunk and getting rid of it. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, that's all your feelings of obligation and responsibility. Now, if you're living like the other seagulls, thinking life is, dog eat dog, fighting for your own scrap of meat, all of that, hearing like that you're not supposed to fulfill your responsibilities and obligations sounds like blasphemy, right? But this is they're talking about the guilt. Like when they're pulling out those obligations, it's the false guilt and shame of not fulfilling what others thought you should fulfill. We are all here for a purpose, and we alone, each individual, can know what that purpose is. And yes, we need to take care of each other. We need to have compassion for each other. We need to lift each other up when we can, if someone is getting low. But your first responsibility is to yourself and to your heart. Because like I always say, your heart is what connects you to all humanity, to all living things. And so you can trust your heart. If your heart says to do something, you can trust that it is for the betterment of the human race. There's no separation. And this is one of the hardest things to get across. I just saw a meme recently that kind of grated on me a little bit. It was talking about how the narcissism of a lot of recent spirituality, because it's so focused on the self-development, and what about the compassion for the world? That's the either or. Oh, I can either work on myself or I can work on the world. How about both and? If you're working on yourself for your own highest good, you are empowering yourself with more resources to be able to reach out and help those around you. There is no separation. It's not bettering yourself at the expense of someone else. It's bettering yourself for the betterment of the world. There is no separation. The better you get, the better we all get. And the more we can free ourselves from those false obligations and responsibilities to become that pure essence, divinity that we began as, the better off the entire world is. It isn't an either or. That just gets back into a lot of like the fundamental religions, where it's like, oh, I'm worthless and I have to put everyone above me. What if why can't we just be equals and admire each other, lift each other up, see namaste, the divine in me sees the divine in you, and come together in that way. So by following your own heart, your own passion, you automatically take care of everyone else. Because of what you do and who you become, others benefit, just like the beaver building the dam, building his lodge. The entire woodland benefits from beaver becoming the best beaver that he possibly can. So again, at the heart of all of this is to trust your heart. Trusting your heart, you can do no wrong. There might be missteps, there might be misinterpretations of what your heart's telling you, as we grow and evolve. I mean, I still take missteps. I still do things that I probably shouldn't have. But in the bigger sense, it's like I had to do that to know what the results were. It's not a success or a failure. Every action has results. And then you move forward with those results, knowing how not to move forward, right? So, trust your vision. In when you're focusing on bettering yourself, if you're watching this, if you're into the spiritual movement, spirituality, it's because you know there is more to you than what meets the eye. And don't give away that power to having to make everyone else more important or better than you. There is no one more important than you. There is no one more powerful than you. You are a sovereign being in your life, and no one has more power than you, and no one has less power than you, right? And so literally we are in this non-zero sum game where the better anyone gets, it raises everybody else. The more people, the more passionate, whole, awake people we have walking around this planet, the better off everyone is, because people who are passionate and whole don't take advantage of their neighbors. They don't have to fight for resources. They don't see life as a competition because they have everything they need. They know where their source comes from. And so there's no need for the power struggles back and forth. So trust your source, trust Creator, trust your origin, and keep coming back to salmon. That is where the vision comes from, you know, and that's interesting. Thanks, guys. Like they say, any vision that you have is actually a memory. Like they say, like all the science fiction in the world, for instance, is actually people remembering other realities, other lives, other dimensions, or whatever. And the same with visions of the world. If you have a vision of better humanity, it's because you remember what that feels like. It's a memory. So trust that. Move toward that vision. If this is your card, you are one of the 10% of the population who are more creative, who can see things, can see results ahead of the game, to see how things can be put together toward a better use later. I don't know how to put it more eloquently, but there's like, I read this someplace that there's like 10% the introverts, the creators, the instigators, the visionaries. That's you. And it's up to us to set that vision, to express that vision in whatever form we can, whether it's art, movies, music, TV, stories, whatever, to get that vision into the world so that those who don't have access to that higher vision, we can put it in a tactile form that others can understand. And I always go back to Star Trek, right? It's like the world was falling apart when Star Trek came out, and yet here came this TV show that showed all the nations of the earth together, working together toward the betterment of humanity, to go into space and explore what was there, because we had set all our differences apart. We recognize the value of every single person, and only then could we come and create a space program where we could go off into space to explore further. And so Gene Roddenberry had this vision, and he was able to put it on TV so that others could see it. So all of a sudden, people who normally might not have this vision, they have this vision of what that looks like. What does that world look like? And it's like it's creating a template for others to add to, for others to be able to actually see and feel what it is like to have a world like that. So trust your vision, express your vision, do whatever you need to do to fulfill that vision. Not only to have the vision, but to manifest, to bring that, build it into physical reality in some way. Okay? Okay. I don't know that we're going to get to our meditation tonight. Number 3. Sometimes I talk and I don't know what I don't realize until afterwards what I'm actually saying, and I feel a little ungrounded because the stuff just comes out. I'm like, oh my God, what are people going to think about that? And oh no, what if someone comes at me because of that and tries to argue? It's like, that's part of my vision. I have to like just trust that ancestral wisdom coming up. So That's part of my current lessons. Anyway, so number 3. If 3 was your card, you got the armadillo. Armadillo, the main thing armadillo is about is boundaries, right? It's interesting looking at all 3 of these cards, how they all fit together, because you can't have the vision without, you can't create that, you can't manifest that vision, that dream into physical reality without boundaries. Interesting. It was like between those 2, beaver and armadillo, it reminded me of something I figured out many years ago, you know, like there are certain artists or like directors or, you know, movie makers, actors, different artists that have a reputation of being difficult, you know, writers that don't compromise, like, well, why can't we just do that? No. And so they get this reputation of being uncompromising, of being difficult, of being unrelentless, or is it relentless? Tenacious. But the thing is, they are the ones with the vision, and they are setting those boundaries to not let anyone take away the essence of their vision. I can't think of anyone in particular, but, you know, it's when you have that vision and you're bringing it into reality, sometimes, you know, it is a group cooperative thing, but as the visionary, your responsibility is for that essence of that, the heart of that vision to stay intact. And so there's all these wonderful, like, directors. I'm blanking on any of them, but like these people, these artists in different realms, that they have their vision so clear. And where other people want to skim, well, why can't I just do this? Or why can't we just substitute this or whatever? And they're like, no, it has to be this way, because they have that vision and they're drawing the boundary, because the shell of the armadillo is what allows him to have that nice soft underbelly. The boundaries are like the seed casing to hold space for that seed, for the soft, meaty, juicy innards of that seed, until it's strong enough to split open that seed casing and have the strength to take care of itself. And there's all these stories about, yeah, they almost hired this person to play that part, or they wanted to shoot this one movie at this other location because the first one that the director wanted was too expensive, but you know, they ended up at the first one anyway, and it would have been a whole different thing if they had gone with the easier route. Never settle. Your vision is your vision. Your life is your life. Who you are is not up for negotiation. I'll say that again. Who you are, the truth of your being, is not up for negotiation. Who you are is non-negotiable. Boundaries. So armadillo comes in to help remind us of the both and. Armadillo is both hard and soft. It's got the shell and the underbelly, right? We need both of them in union. It's kind of the yin-yang, masculine, feminine, light, dark. And it's the shell, the boundaries on his back that gives Armadillo the courage to explore unknown realms that he might otherwise be afraid to do because he knows he can curl up in a ball at any moment and be safe. So, trust. Oh, interesting. Okay. And it just brought up this. There's a song by the group Libana. They're mostly a cappella women's group that sing a lot of folk songs and kind of witchy pagan songs. And there's this one song, if I can remember, be like the bird who pauses in her flight on a branch so slight that it gives way beneath her, but sings, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings. Non-negotiable. Your well-being does not depend on anyone else or the world. Your confidence, your courage depends on your own self-knowledge, knowing who you are, that you have the ability to take care of yourself, that you are worth taking care of yourself, right? So like the bird, she doesn't have trust in the tree, but she can sing when the branch breaks because she's got wings. She knows she can fly. Armadillo knows that he can curl up in a ball at any moment and be safe, so he can go and explore the world that he might not otherwise do. And one of the things I like to point out is that his shell is part of his body. His shell, in a way, is just a higher frequency of hair and fur, right? It's so densely packed that it becomes hard, but it's still flexible. Boundaries are flexible. Boundaries, there's a difference between boundaries and walls. Walls are hard, unmoving, and walls break. Boundaries are soft, they're hard, but flexible. They're breathable, they're porous. Like the hair in the shell of Armadillo, it breathes, it's flexible. And so if you think of it, again, returning to your essence, that, you know, that high frequency divine being of light that you are, when you come into that purity, that innocence, that softness, and you radiate this light outward, you create this bubble of higher frequency light around you, just like the higher frequency, denser hair around the armadillo, right? And so it's not about protecting yourself by putting armor on. It's an inside job, allowing yourself to radiate higher frequency light that becomes your protective space and shell that allows you to go places you might not otherwise go because you know you're protected. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to talk anyone out of doing whatever they do to feel spiritually protected. I'm not here to jump you like totally out of your comfort zones. It's a process. Wherever you are is perfect. If you still, you know, surrounding yourself in a bubble of light, whatever other protections you have is perfectly fine. Eventually, at some point, you have to realize, excuse me, that bubble of light isn't something you're pulling in from the outside. It's something that you're putting out from the inside. I learned this wonderful, excuse me, sorry about that, kind of mantra, I don't know what to call it, but like to set protection, to hold space around you. This is one of the ones that I use quite frequently. Love above me, love below me, love to the left of me, love to the right of me, love within me, love all around me. That's that bubble of light, of white light, but it's coming from within me. That the light, love within me, love all around me. You become the bubble of light. The bubble of light originates in you, and it clears the way before you. So anyway, so that is our cards for tonight. I think I'm going to stop it there. Sometimes I have a hard time figuring out where to stop because I could keep going and going and going. But I hope that was helpful for you. I hope you got some good guidance from the animals. Know that this is not just symbolic. These are actual spirits, living, I was going to say breathing, but maybe not so much breathing, but sovereign beings who come to help us, to walk with us or swim with us, and to lend us their strengths. You know, whatever the message was, whatever particular talent each one has is something that you may need this coming week. And so ask them, you know, Salmon, come help me find my way where I'm supposed to go. Everyone else is going the other way. I need to find my way back to who I am, and whatever it is. So we don't have time for the guided shamanic journey, but if you go back to I did do it last week, I think. Back to last week's, which I don't remember the date. I'm so bad at time right now. But if you go back and watch last week's, if you watch the video until you see me pull out my drum, and then you can listen to that guided shamanic journey with the drum and just call on whichever animal volunteered this week for you and talk to them and get your own message from their own mouths of what they came to help you with. That's part of my job, is to empower others, and so that rather than it all being hearsay, you know, secondhand knowledge from me to you, I love teaching people how to gain that wisdom of their own power, so they're not always dependent on people like me to tell them. Not that I don't enjoy it. I love doing readings. In fact, if you enjoyed this, I encourage you, that's the word I'm looking for. I encourage you to seek me out for your own reading. You get 5 cards or more, and it's amazing how deep these cards go, and focused all on you, what you need to know at that moment, what's going on in your life, what might need attention. But I love doing these readings. I love connecting people with their animal spirit guides. And also, I do you can find on perchingwolfstudios.net the different shamanic services I offer. I just got a new scheduling thing, so you don't have to text or email me. You can actually sign up right on my website any time of day, no matter where you are. You can sign up for a reading or a soul retrieval or healing or shamanic coaching or shamanic mentoring, whatever you're looking for. So check out my website, see what I offer, to see what might resonate with you, what I might be able to do to help empower you on your path. And like I mentioned earlier, coming up this coming Saturday, the 26th, from 2 to 5, I'm going to be teaching my Introduction to Shamanic Journey class. If you've ever been interested in shamanism and haven't really known what it's about or what they do, this is a 3-hour class for $100. It's really worth the money, because not only will we go through like the history of shamanism, what a shaman is, what a shaman does, etc. I will also teach you how to do a shamanic journey, which is the technique that shamans have used for over 100,000 years to connect directly to their spirit guides. It's a practice, it's the oldest known spiritual practice, and it's a practice of direct revelation where there is no middleman. You connect directly to spirit, get your wisdom and your guidance. Not to say that we don't help each other along the way either and journey for others or whatever, but this class literally changed my life when I took it way back, gosh, almost 15 years ago now, I think. And if you take this class, or if you already know how to do a shamanic journey but aren't sure what to do next, starting March, every third Thursday and around the wheel of the year, I'm teaching another course called Deepening the Journey, where we meet every month for 3 hours and we explore different aspects of shamanism. You learn that, once you know how to journey, then you start learning what questions to ask, what different guides you can meet, where they can take you, what you can do with the shamanic journey, forward and backward in time, middle world, upper world, lower world journeys. It's exciting and I love teaching it. Every time this is going to be I think it's my 6th year of actually teaching this course. And I swear every year the students get like one notch. The students start out like one notch higher than the group before did. So if that sounds interesting to you, all the information is on my website. It's also on my Facebook page. So check that out. I would love to have you along for that, and learning how shamanism, even though it's the oldest known spiritual practice, how it is still pertinent to today and how it affects every level of your life when you follow a shamanic path. So exciting stuff. What else? If you enjoyed this, I gratefully accept donations. I have my PayPal information in the description. So if you want to throw a couple bucks my way, I so appreciate it. This is my full-time job now, and so any little bit helps. Every little bit I get financially helps me to be able to focus more on this job that I love, empowering people and the shamanic path, and educating people to connecting people to their own divine oneness, basically to their own power to empower others. So for that, I thank you, and thank you for watching this video, for supporting me by watching. Please share this video, invite others. This every Monday night at the same time. If you enjoy it, maybe someone else will too. Invite them along, share it to their page, share it with your friends. Sharing is caring. And if you're not aware, Wednesday night I also do a live video. I do a sacred pipe ceremony where I set space and hold space for people to just let the world off their shoulders for an hour or so, connect to spirit, to send our prayers and our intentions directly to Great Spirit. It's always a really powerful time. If that sounds good to you, please check that out. Wednesday night at 7 at the same on my Facebook Live. And I will share this video and that video to my Facebook page, as well as I will upload it to my YouTube channel, Perching Wolf Studios YouTube channel. So like and subscribe there. And what else? Oh, and I just started a new blog. I have a blog I've been writing for 12 years or so called The Golden Thread Road. You can Google it. It's got like the past 12 years of my shamanic experiences and different things. And things have shifted so much that it just felt appropriate to kind of end that blog and to begin a whole new one. So my new one is Wind Buffalo Journeys. It's at Wind Buffalo, WINDBUFFALO.blogspot.com. I've only got one entry up there so far, but I have at least 2 years worth of experiences to start sharing on that. So subscribe, follow me there to stay updated to the latest that's going on with me. And I think that is about it. So I hope you enjoyed this tonight. I hope this gave you something to think about. I hope it empowered you, made you maybe feel a little bit more connected, protected, loved. So until I see you again, either Wednesday or next week, I love you, I see you, and I honor you. Have a wonderful week, my friends. Take care of yourselves and go shining. All right. Bye, everybody.